Hi, this is Krystal Stoddard with Orchid Realty International. Today I'm here with Julie Scott from Movement Mortgage. Hi Julie, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Krystal. Thanks for having me.
So if you wouldn't mind, just go ahead and let our viewers know a little bit about you and Movement Mortgage.
Sure. So as Krystal said, I'm Julie Scott. I'm a loan officer with Movement Mortgage here in Fort Myers. I was born and raised here, been doing loans for 20 plus years. And Movement Mortgage, we're a nationwide company. We're headquartered right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Perfect, thanks for that information. So if you can let our viewers know, what kind of loan products do Movement Mortgage have and that they provide?
Sure. Well, we offer all of your standard agency programs. So that would be FHA, VA, conventional, USDA. And just to let people know a little bit about each one, so we'll start with VA because that's one of our favorite types of loans to do. VA, obviously you have to be eligible, you have to be a veteran or the spouse of a deceased veteran. And the benefits of VA, it's 100% financing. So no money down, there's no mortgage insurance, so it keeps your monthly payment lower. And with Movement Mortgage, because we love veterans and do so many VA loans, we have no lender fees. And many times the interest rates are a little bit lower on VA also. And for VA, just so you know, it's only on a primary home. So you can't use it to buy a second home or investment property. The next loan, which is only for primary homes, is FHA. And FHA is nice because it can be a little bit easier to qualify. The credit score requirements are a little bit lower. With Movement Mortgage, the minimum is 580. Also, the down payment can be a little bit lower than some of the conventional loans, so the minimum is 3.5% down. And like I said, it can be a little easier to qualify. You know, if you had a more recent, say, bankruptcy or foreclosure, it can be a little more forgiving than conventional. With FHA, though, it's pretty difficult to buy a condo. So that's kind of one of the main drawbacks, because obviously we have a lot of condos in our area.
Yes.
And to go FHA, in most cases, it already has to be approved through the FHA, and there are very few that are. But you can certainly get a townhome, single family home, or manufactured home with FHA. The other one is USDA. We don't see as many of those because the home has to be in a USDA eligible area. And that's more of a rural area. So like in, let's say, Lee County, that's going to be mostly Elva, Buckingham, that sort of area.
Right.
You're not going to get USDA in Fort Myers or Cape Coral. And with USDA, it is also 100% financing. They do have income limits, so you can't be making over a certain amount, but it is a great program if you're looking for no money down and you're buying in a rural area. And then the final is conventional. Conventional can be used with primary home, second home, or investment property. The minimum credit score is 620 in most cases. And the minimum down payment, that'll vary based on how you're going to occupy the home. For a primary home, if you're a first-time home buyer, you can put as little as 3% down. If you're not a first-time home buyer, and by the way, first-time home buyer just means you have not owned a primary home in the last 3 years. So if you are not a first-time home buyer, the minimum is 5% down. If it is a second home, the minimum is 10% down, and for investment property, it's 15% down. We also have the ability to broker out, so that means, let's say you don't meet the requirements for FHA, VA, conventional, or USDA. So say you're self-employed and you have a lot of write-offs and you don't show a lot of income on your taxes, then we can do possibly a bank statement loan where we'll look at the deposits into your bank account. That's really more of a private money loan, so that's something we can broker out to other lenders. So we do offer a lot of different loan programs.
Right, that's amazing. So speaking of interest rates that you mentioned earlier, what are interest rates like now?
Well, what is today? Because of course they change daily. And, as I was talking to somebody the other day, I'm like, we're kind of on a roller coaster ride with interest rates right now. Just to kind of give you some history, the beginning of the year, they were probably around 3%. Then sometime maybe spring, I can't remember exactly, they really jumped up. I mean, we were probably in the mid 7s. They have been coming down. So that's a good sign. So I would say your average interest rate right now is somewhere around 6%, but that varies a lot based on your credit score, the type of loan you're doing, but give or take, they're right around 6%. And nobody can predict the future, but
Right.
they do expect rates to come down some more next year. Some are saying close to 5, some are even saying close to 4. Nobody knows,
Right.
but the good news is they do not expect them to stay high.
So when somebody asks about like an ARM, for instance, an adjustable rate mortgage, what would be your take on that?
Sure. Well, ARMs are a little more unique, and every lender is going to vary a lot with ARMs. Right now, we don't really have any ARM programs that are much better than the fixed rates. So in most cases, we just do a fixed rate. The nice thing is Movement Mortgage is offering a program right now called Movement Advantage, where let's say you lock in the rate today at 6%, and let's say a year from now they're at 4%. You can refinance your mortgage, you get that lower interest rate at 4%, and we're not going to charge you any lender closing cost.
Wow.
So, they don't really have, it's a win for them on that situation.
That's amazing. So you mentioned locking in certain rates. Do you offer rate lock?
Sure. So with your interest rate, you lock that in once you're under contract. So, the process is somebody would come to me to get pre-approved so they know what their buying power is, get all their questions answered. And then once they are under contract, as long as they're going to close within a certain time period, usually 60 days, that is when we can lock in the interest rate.
Nice. So also, let's go ahead and skip to closing costs. If somebody asks, what are my closing costs going to be? How do you determine that, and what is included in closing costs?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question, because a lot of people, they only think about the down payment.
Right.
Or let's say they're doing a VA loan. They don't realize, even though we don't have any lender closing costs, there are going to be closing costs. So what determines closing cost is going to be obviously the loan amount, the type of property. So like, for example, on a condo, you're not going to need a survey, but you will on a single family home. So that'll determine that. So, and it really, like I said, is primarily the loan amount, the type of property, and also, the loan type can make a difference, because once again, on VA loans, they're going to be a little bit lower because there's no lender closing cost. So I usually just give them kind of a ballpark number, as long as they understand that is just a ballpark.
Right.
Because another big thing are the taxes and the insurance. When we close, we have to collect 1 full year of insurance. One house, the insurance could be $800. Another home, it could be $5,000.
Right.
So that's going to be a big difference. So I always recommend they get an insurance quote as soon as possible. And then, of course, we'll get with the title company, get their fees, so we can try to give them as accurate a quote on the closing cost as possible.
Nice. So also, are there, for Movement Mortgage specifically, are there any extra costs or extra fees that you charge for each loan?
Sure. So, most lenders like Movement, we're going to have our lender fees, which is processing and underwriting. With Movement, that's just under $1,400 on most loans. But one thing they would definitely want to look into are points. So what points are, which a lot of people don't really understand points, usually you pay those to lower your interest rate. So once again, let's just use a 6% interest rate. Let's say it's 6% with no points. And another lender is saying their rate is 5.5. They might be charging 2 points to get that lower interest rate. Now we can do the same thing, but it's important for the buyer to understand the rate and the points. What a point is, so if let's say your loan amount is $300,000, a point is 1% of that. So that would be $3,000, and it is a one-time cost paid at closing. And once again, usually they would pay points if they want to get a lower interest rate.
Right, that's great. So also, are there any down payment assistance programs available right now?
Yes, there are, and we work with a lot of those. So the biggest one right now is Hometown Heroes. That came out in June. It is only for the state of Florida. Other states may have their own. But we love Hometown Heroes. And for that, to qualify, you have to be considered a hero. So that would be a veteran, anybody in the medical profession, and police officer, firefighter, teaching profession. So there's a whole list of things, and we can, if you're unsure of that, you can certainly reach out and we can let you know if you qualify. With Hometown Heroes, the nice thing is usually the interest rate's a little bit lower. Closing costs are lower because it is exempt from the state doc stamps and intangible tax that you would normally have. And you will get 5% of your loan amount that you can use towards down payment and closing costs. So once again, say your loan is $300,000, you're going to get $15,000, which should cover all of your down payment, and depending on the loan type, it may cover some of your closing costs.
Right.
That 5% is a second mortgage, so it's important to know that whenever they sell or refinance, they will have to pay that back, but there's no interest on it, there's no monthly payment, so it really is a phenomenal program. And then if somebody doesn't fall into that category of Hometown Hero, there are other down payment assistance programs. Usually you would get a second mortgage for $10,000, so it doesn't matter your loan amount, it's a flat $10,000. For any of the down payment assistance programs, you do have to be a first-time home buyer, which once again means you haven't owned a primary home in the last 3 years. Unless you're a veteran, they are exempt from that. You do not have to be a first-time home buyer in that case. Usually you need a 640 credit score, and then there's also income limits. Like for the Hometown Heroes, you can't make more than $120,000 in Lee County. It will be a little higher in Collier County just because of the income in Collier County, but there are income limits for each program. But yeah, if somebody's a first-time home buyer and does not have the down payment, do not let that hold you back, because there's definitely assistance out there.
Right, that's great information to know. So thank you so much for visiting with me today and letting everybody know what they can expect when they're looking for a loan. So lastly, how can somebody get in touch with you if they are interested in getting a mortgage?
Sure. Yeah, they can always call my cell. It's 239-209-2017, or send me an email at julie.scott@movement.com.
Perfect. Thank you again.
Thank you, Krystal.
Thank you.